everyone. So welcome to Skeptic She, or welcome back. My name is Lauren. Today I'm doing a little collab with Dave and Ashley from Echoplex Media. They do a whole bunch of Scientology streams, I think on Thursdays?
Yeah, Thursdays, 9 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, on their Twitch, and they put it up on YouTube as well. It's pretty hilarious. They actually go more in depth on Scientology than I do. So subscribe to Echoplex Media, subscribe to me. And today I'm going to be reading another Scientology magazine. If you don't know the story, my last apartment that I lived in had a previous tenant who would get Scientology magazines, and they just never changed their address. So long story short, I got them. It's been wildly entertaining. Here we go. This much shorter magazine is called Impact, so you can already see the fear-mongering going on here. It says, screen label drug halting Italy's psychiatric feeder lines. I guess I didn't realize, you two probably knew this more than I did, but I didn't realize how anti-mental health they were. They're very, anti-psychology, anti-counseling, anti-medication, all of that. Yeah, so we have a couple little ads in here. Sometimes I like to show the ads just because they're so ridiculous. There's a quote from L. Ron Hubbard here. Here's the picture.
The aims of Scientology.
The aims of
extract all the money from your wallet.
Yes, exactly. Civilization without insanity, without criminals, and without war, where the able can prosper and honest beings can have rights, and where man, and man is capitalized, is free to rise to greater heights. That means not a whole lot to me.
Those certainly are all words.
Yes, they are certainly all words. Oh, and look how pissed this person looks.
He's having an angry. He don't even know why.
I think he knows why, but he knows that he'll be blackmailed if he says why. They're going to use
this stupid picture in a Scientology magazine, and I don't have anything to say about it.
So I wanted to read this whole thing. There's always this piece from L. Ron Hubbard at the beginning, pulled from his books and journals and all that other weird stuff. Brace yourself. I'm going to show his gorgeous face. Oh, there he is.
Always with the middle finger.
This is what I do in debate panels when I'm not allowed to talk, but I want to make a point.
Just a subtle flip off.
Just a subtle flip off, yeah.
Yeah. This is called How to Win an Argument. Story time, children. It's already so bad. And I took some notes on this a while ago, so I'm going to probably read those too. It is not entirely just to say that psychiatrists and psychologists have no technology. True, they can cure nothing and cannot change anyone for better or worse, and as a result, have to kill difficult patients, but they do have one piece of technology. This is concerned with winning arguments. There's a lot of presumptions going on in there.
If you can't cure them, kill them. Get rid of the evidence.
And they're just assuming that all therapists and mental health professionals are doing this.
It's also interesting, like, they're saying they can't make you worse, which kind of flies in the face of a lot of the propaganda we see on the Scientology network.
Yeah, why does he say for better or worse? I don't know. I think he's about to contradict himself. So then he goes on to say, this is concerned with winning arguments. Anyone who disagrees with their planned totalitarian rule is pronounced insane. He is seized quietly, conveyed to a prison, tortured, and usually permanently injured or killed. He says usually permanently injured or killed.
Sometimes temporarily killed?
Yeah.
I mean, you come back. That's their thing, right? You come back and you have to join the Scientology org again. So maybe they're temporary. Someone get temporarily killed because they can come back and be a Scientologist. I don't know.
Right. You get a 23-year break. And then you have to come back and continue on your billion years.
Yeah, I wonder when they consider it convenient to be killed. Maybe if they want to be more Christ-like or something. I don't know.
Depends on how temporary it is.
Yeah, that's true. If they're just killed for the weekend, then they're, modeling after Christ.
Right.
Trying to blend religions as they do.
And then you have endless crackers and juice and you're fine.
All right,
juice.
So... permanently injured or killed, people they cannot get their hands on, but who exist in literature or legend, they also pronounce insane. Barry Goldwater was labeled a paranoid schizophrenic by psychiatrists employed by the opposing party. Whittaker Chambers was dubbed a psychopathic personality. Woodrow Wilson was declared a megalomaniac, and even Jesus Christ, hey, speak of the Jesus, when the psychiatrists decided religion barred their way to world control, was called a born regenerate with a fixed delusional system manifesting a paranoid clinical picture. In parentheses, it says, so typical. It is hardly conceivable people can even question the accuracy of the diagnosis. I mean, if the person Jesus actually existed, which is questionable, I would agree, I guess, that maybe he was delusional, like thought of himself as the savior of the universe.
And I don't think there's a lot of mental health professionals going around like posthumously diagnosing Jesus with mental disorders. I think some of the shit is just stuff that maybe he heard someone say. Like he hung out with Crowley and all those people for a while too, so maybe he was just on a whole lot of acid or something, and somebody came up with a diagnosis for Jesus while they were partying or whatever. Because there's a lot of pop psychology too, and a lot that was real big during L. Ron's time, and so there might have been like diagnosing, historical figures with this or that might have been something that was popular at the time. It's hard to know.
Yeah, and frankly, I wouldn't put it past L. Ron Hubbard to just straight up make up quotes
or anything.
Or everything. So, and this is so hard to follow. Just even pausing in between paragraphs, I'm like, wait, what was he talking about? So he says, in other words, psychologists and psychiatrists do have a piece of technology. Anyone who has any other idea than total social control is labeled crazy. This at once disposes of the fellow, of course. Oh, disposes of the fellow. His grammar is so weird. It invalidates his views, and so gets them out of the road of psychiatric progress toward the total state, and total state is capitalized. There are only two things odd about this technology. One is that it is only used on people who speak of freedom or whose views oppose psychiatric ambitions, because we all know how Scientology is all about freedom. The other is that it cannot be called new. Even though a lot of Latin is employed to make the point, it is very difficult to find any difference between the technology and that employed by little boys. What? It gets worse. As almost anyone has always known, devoid of all Latin terms, when two little boys can't agree on some vague point little boys disagree about, one or the other since caveman times has always tried to end the argument by saying, you're crazy. Could it be their whole technology has never really advanced beyond that of the neighborhood bully? Cool, so all psychiatrists and psychologists are bullies.
He used a lot of words to say that when people don't agree with each other, the other one accuses the other one of having fucking mental problems, and that's why they can't see reason.
And that's funny because that's exactly what Scientologists do.
I thought that was going to go another direction. I thought he was going to say that the cavemen solved it with violence or something.
That's what I thought. Yeah, same too. That ended with one destroying the other, or some fucking word that L. Ron Hubbard would use. Eliminating, removing from his mortal coil, or some fucking shit that he would say.
Creating an unbeingness.
Damn it. Dig, 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 dig.
They are, they're negative OT20.
In other words, dead.
Yeah.
Negative 3 on the tone scale or some shit.
Oh, so I was going to ask, maybe you've seen, there's like a Daily Beast article on this and some other stuff on it, but apparently Scientology has an anti-psych museum. Have you heard about this?
Yes, we have.
Okay. Do you want to talk a little more about it? Because it goes right up along these lines.
It's basically how Scientologists, or how L. Ron Hubbard viewed what goes on in a mental hospital or a psychiatric hospital, cranked up to 15 and used as propaganda against psychology and psychiatry as like an evil. So like in the most extreme instances of like electroshock therapy, or having to restrain violent or manic patients who are going to hurt themselves or somebody else or something like that. And you know how it's all rooted in Nazism and in Germany, and it's fucking crazy. It's crazy.
And
crazy
it also doesn't describe like mental health facilities past, I'd say 1950 or maybe 1960 from what I'm seeing in there. So there were a lot of cruel practices,
Yeah.
And so, it just doesn't, it's not with the times, but this is in Hollywood. And I think it's right near one of the big Scientology centers. And it's got it says psychiatry and industry of death, like right above the door.
Oh yeah.
And
I saw that.
And people, I bet people walking by who are generally distrustful of big pharmaceutical go in there and they go, well, I'm not this distrustful of that stuff. And then they're like, I gotta get out of here.
Okay, so the spotlight for this year marks the 50th anniversary of the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, which sounds eerily like the Human Rights Campaign, which it's totally not at all. CCHR was co-founded in 1969 to eradicate human rights abuses in the field of mental health. Okay, didn't know that. Over the past 5 decades, CCHR advocates have worked tirelessly to achieve this objective. They enacted 150 laws to prevent further abuse. To celebrate the landmark, they held this fancy gala, as they like to do. Whether exposing the dangers of psychiatric drugs or revealing the destructive effects of electroshock, there you go. CCHR continues to be at the forefront of the fight to eradicate psychiatric abuses and protect the rights of the vulnerable. Which, if they're genuinely helping people get rid of electroshock therapy, I'm all for that, but I really doubt that that's what they're focused on. Here's a picture of their fancy-ass party. Yep.
I bet you'd be hard pressed to find anybody using electroshock therapy in the United States or Europe or Australia or Japan or anything right now.
After what, 1960?
I would imagine it's been outlawed in many places.
Well, and it sounds to me, I'm kind of gathering this pattern of we have all these writings from L. Ron Hubbard. We think he's still alive, so everything that he said to apply to the world in the 60s and 70s, we can still use that now because his truth is always the truth. It's the same thing with evangelical Christians taking the Bible literally 2,000 years later.
But also, here's where the streams cross, right? Because they're trying to make their ways into areas where they're not elected, but they are promoted to help enact laws that are against psychiatry and big pharma and stuff like that. So this is where they hook up with the fucking QAnon people and the anti-vaxxers and start using them as they're like, oh, well, you're already into this thing. How about you help us out with this anti-psychiatry stuff, because that's infringing on your rights and they're just trying to medicate you in another way. And then that's how all that ends up being a giant kerfluffle of just fucking garbage, and it's horrible. And it's all dangerous and it's all toxic and it all sucks because they don't realize it until it's too late.
Right. Oh, this is just an ad to join the IAS. And again, this person just kind of has this smile I'm dead inside, but I'm trying to do this ad. Okay. And then before we get to the main article, there's a bunch of little blurbs about more of their white saviorism. They claim that they helped Guatemalan police learn about human rights, and they also claim that a former addict helped young people in Cape Town. Kids as young as 12 and 13 are seeking treatment because they got the Truth About Drugs booklet.
So they do a lot of this there's a show on their 24-hour network. We don't watch it because that show sucks, but A Voices for Humanity is their kind of white savior show on their network, where it shows them going to primarily either neighborhoods in America that are either primarily or have been historically black and brown people, or going to South America and Africa and giving people these booklets and getting all these people together in these schools. It's like space alien cult colonialism.
Accurate.
Yes.
But yeah, if you ever catch the 24-hour network and you see the Voices for Humanity, just kind of, if you were to watch a few of those, the white savior thing you're talking about, that's the show where they do that.
Well, here's a picture. Take a look at what the pamphlets say.
Dude, I've seen that. That's a still from a Scientology TV. I've seen that one. The one where
Just says,
the kids at the blue school.
Drugs.
Yeah, the school was mostly blue. I think it was. Yeah, they do all these interviews with people that might work at that school. But yeah, that's got to be a still from Scientology TV. We've seen that before. I wonder how many of these
images. They put drugs in huge letters and like they try to make it look like edgy font.
The Truth About Drugs pamphlet.
They've handed out 50 million of those. It's a big win.
Yeah, Scientology. We create the most garbage on earth.
Yeah, no shit. Okay, so now to the main article. This has the same header as the cover, screen labeled drug. So in 1978, the Italian government passed a law to shut down 97 psychiatric asylums. The closures were prompted by the horrific conditions exposed by the CCHR, Citizens Commission on Human Rights, and other groups. With the asylums closed, psychiatry changed its tactics, I can't talk, and began targeting the most vulnerable sector of society, children. Italian psychiatrists set their sights on getting into schools and intensively lobbied Parliament and the educational system to make this happen. In 2010, legislators passed a law requiring all school children to be screened for specific learning disorder. And then it says the Italian version in parentheses, DSA is a so-called disorder and label given to children who exhibit a wide range of symptoms similar to ADHD. The diagnosis is as subjective as it is unscientific. The list of criteria used to determine if a child has the disorder include messy handwriting, losing track of time, and having difficulty with subjects such as math or reading. Okay, so just reading through this at first, I don't have too much of a problem with it because I'm like, yeah, I agree that there are a lot of kids that are misdiagnosed or over-medicated for certain things, but I just feel like that's not the direction this is going.
No.
Well, they have to hook you in with something that seems reasonable. You know, if you're gonna trick a bunch of people into joining your cult or whatever, everything, you have to be saying some true things.
Some true things and something that fits like a really common narrative where no one would really necessarily disagree. Or they'll keep things, I've mentioned this previously in other Scientology videos, they'll word things in a way that's just vague enough to make it seem like they're doing a whole lot of good. Okay, so to implement the law, all teachers had to attend mandatory psychiatric training so they could detect and manage these disorders. This turned Italian schools into psychiatric referral centers. Elementary school children were subjected to compulsory screening, often without parental consent. I wrote in the margins, what hypocrisy, sounds like Scientology. You're subjected to screenings without your consent or with some level of manipulation. Mm-hmm. It was the perfect psych feeder system. Children who failed the screening were directed to mental health centers for an official diagnosis. Thousands of kids were labeled with DSA, ADHD, and other disorders and prescribed psychiatric drugs. If parents opposed the treatment, the mental health centers reported them to the courts. A citation needed. As a result, the number of children diagnosed with DSA in Italy tripled between 2011 and 2015. Okay, that may be true. I have no idea. To date, 190,000 Italian children have been labeled with the disorder and channeled into the psychiatric system. While many looked on helplessly, some took action, such as IAS member and national expert Vincenza Palmieri. I'm going to pretend I said that right. And then I wrote, Scientology saves the day again. So here we lead into them putting on their cape and coming in to save the day. All right. They're a leading authority on children and family issues. Vincenza is a professor in a prominent university, a human rights champion, and a fierce opponent of psychiatric drugs. She is also the founder and president of an important national institution, INPEF, National Family Education Institute. She was the first to denounce the damage caused by DSA labeling and false psychiatric solutions and has dedicated her life to ending these abuses.
I know how Scientology likes to blow up their numbers to a crowd that is not going to fact check or verify them at all, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I would need to look up some of that stuff because it seems. Also, they're trying to make it seem like they're taking 190,000 kids out of elementary school and firing them through chutes into fucking psychiatric hospitals to drug them and strap them down to beds and turn them into lobotomize them and turn them into corporate zombies from third grade or whatever they're doing this, whatever grade they're doing this in.
Right, but I think when they say like that they're being put into psychiatry, I think that means that many of these kids are having a medication for this ADHD like condition that they're being diagnosed with, and so I think that's what they mean. But yeah, the way they can't just say that. They can't just say, and these people have been, given medications that we don't believe in or whatever. They have to say that it's like, I forget what the wording they use, the pipeline or the into psychiatry, something like that.
Yeah, channeled into the psychiatric system.
Oh, come on.
All right. The making of a human rights champion. For many years, Vincenza ran human rights and social services projects in the field as a consultant for local governments, dealing with a host of family problems and social ills. During this time, she came to the realization that psychiatry was not only not helping people,
not helping people. Oh, come on.
Not only not helping people, it was hurting people. You could have just said it was hurting people. Before we move on, I have to show you this very dramatic picture. It says in 2010, a law was passed in Italy that required all schools to screen their students for a psychiatric learning disorder. Those who failed the test were directed to psychiatrists for evaluation and treatment. So here's the very dramatic picture.
Looks like somebody's giving him pills. The kid in the young man or the kid in the foreground, and then the other behind it's like a sad girl, and then a girl paying attention in school.
Like a ghost.
Yeah, it reminds me of those old like anti-smoking ads.
Right.
Like what were they called? Truth or something?
I remember those, yeah.
Yeah.
So this was hurting people. Vincenza was especially moved by the thousands of children she dealt with that were harmed by psychiatric drugs. She found CCHR in 2003. Soon after, she began collaborating with the staff in the national offices in Rome and Milan and began using CCHR materials to educate and inform. She also helped many CCHR groups across Italy with cases where children had been taken from their parents or ordered to take psychiatric drugs. After successfully reuniting one girl with her family, Vincenza teamed up with a well-known journalist and wrote a best-selling book about the ordeal called Dad, Get Me Out of Here. Have you heard of this?
No.
No.
Coming soon on Scientology TV.
There's still so many things you could think when you read that title, Dad, Get Me Out of Here. Like, that could mean anything. To protect the rights of children and families, Vincenza established INPEF because they needed more acronyms in 2010. In addition to its social betterment projects, the Institute provides training to attorneys, social workers, physicians, and other professionals who deal with family issues, including domestic abuse, learning difficulties, foster care, and child and parental rights. A highly respected organization, it provides more than 40 legally recognized courses to over 800 distinguished professionals each year. I love that they have to say that the 40 courses were legally recognized.
No, they always do this. They describe like really kind of basic, mundane things that you might do if you had an organization, and they make them into these things that are like impressive in the way they describe everything. They want to use as many like positive sounding adjectives as possible when they describe, if you ever catch the show about their boat, they're using all these adjectives to describe a boat they just bought. And that's like one of the things they do, though. They want to attach as many positive sounding adjectives to things that they're doing, so that it's not just like, oh, we're doing these great things for the community. It's like, we're doing the best, most productive, most efficient thing for the community of Inglewood. It's like they just keep tacking on like descriptions, like positive adjectives to whatever they're talking about. If it's them doing it or someone in association with them, it's just kind of how they talk and how they market.
One of the organization's most important works is the program Living Without Psychiatric Drugs, and those words are all capitalized because, of course. In addition to getting a person off psych drugs, a comprehensive program is created for them, tailored to their specific needs. Vincenza's innovative scientific research has made her a highly sought-after public speaker. Here's what you were just talking about, Dave. She is also a consultant to government and educational officials on bills related to family and children, and she frequently advises attorneys and testifies in court. Her expertises and workable alternatives to psychiatric drugging and treatment have been well received in courts and have provided countless people an alternative to mandatory psych drugging or treatment, longest sentence ever. Every year, Vincenza saves more than 900 people from damaging or forced psychiatric treatment. None of that meant anything.
No, it didn't.
It was like, the courts really like her.
They could have said she's appeared as an expert witness.
Yeah, there you go.
Imagine if like Wikipedia or like an Encyclopedia Britannica was written like this.
I know.
Like, this is the biggest, most massive. No other animal is bigger than this whale. This whale is made of, and it would just be like, oh, it would be ridiculous trying to read like an article about like a kind of snail or something that was written in this way. But they just talk about themselves or anyone associated with them in a very weird way. And they do it on the Scientology TV too. And it's like more pronounced though, because they have all these video effects and like the the lower thirds going on and stuff. So it's like a version of this text here is now like on television. Well, I mean, I don't know. Television is like, we'll use the word television loosely, right? I think it's on like one satellite network. But yeah, that's like, they do this all the time in their marketing. It's like overly descriptive and overly like complimentary to anybody that's working with them. And it's super bizarre because it sounds like a little thirsty.
Well, I wonder, it like makes me picture them having these weird English classes when they first join Scientology. And it's like, you have to learn to write exactly like LRH. Whatever you learned in your journalism classes about keeping things succinct and direct, stop doing that. You have to add more fluff to make us look great.
Get a thesaurus or 12.
Yeah. Yes, or 12.
They're like, we'll even make up some words for you if you need them.
If you don't have enough words, we will make the right words.
Oh, man. Okay. Exposing the dangers of screening. After the learning disorder screening law was passed, Vincenza pushed back on psychiatry's invasion of the classroom. Working with CCHR, she highlighted the dangers of psychiatric screening and treatment in the media and took on cases of forced drugging. She also held hundreds of lectures and seminars, many co-hosted with CCHR, to raise awareness that labeling, psych drugging, and involuntary commitment were major abuses. One of her seminars, entitled Human Rights, Children's Rights, Sensible Tools and Knowledge, was held in the Italian Senate. So they just spent that whole paragraph of this next section basically repeating everything they already said about her.
Right. They're like, oh, she's done some other stuff too. It'll be like, in addition to all this wonderful blah, 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 blah she did, just how they...
Not only does she blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
She blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
All right. So in April 2017, Vincenza and more than 2,000 CCHR volunteers marched through the heart of Florence with banners and placards bearing the message, "Get psychiatry out of our schools." The march coincided with the European Psychiatric Association's annual conference in this city. Ooh, so it was like a counter-protest. In addition to addressing those who attended the march, Vincenza gave a radio interview where she said, "To teach a child that his school problems are solved with a pill is disastrous." Media coverage of the march and her message reached more than 600,000 people. Again, with the big numbers. Other highly visible events were the CCHR conferences in Oderzo, I don't know Italian words, in northeastern Italy, and in Venice, entitled Psychiatry, Targeting Our Children. She loves those colons, where Vincenza and other speakers awakened parents to the psych abuses occurring in schools. At the event, 2 mothers shared horror stories of how their children had been taken from them by social services because of psychiatric expertise. In both cases, Vincenza and CCHR worked together to reunite the children with their families. They followed this with one event after another to open people's eyes to the abuses occurring in the mental health field. At a conference she held in Milan, Vincenza enlisted the help of a panel of lawyers and experts who called out mandatory psychiatric treatment as a basic violation of the Italian Constitution. I wrote myself a note and I said, how much of this is hyperbolic? Does the rest of the world have the same problems? Like, how much of that mandatory psychiatric treatment is actually happening?
And also, like, what do they mean when they say mandatory psychiatric treatment? Are they just saying that the school's able to tell the parent that, hey, we can't keep your kid enrolled in this school unless you do something about this diagnosis, because it's making it hard for us to teach because your student is disruptive or whatever. I just wonder what they mean. But we do know that a thing that was on the radio and TV reached over 600,000 people, and I guess that's a more important detail in the end.
But again, this kind of reiterates like that image of people just coming in and scooping up all the kids and like forcing needles in their arms and putting them in electric chairs.
Come here, Junior.
Come here, Junior. At the National Parliament's Chamber of Deputies in Rome, Vincenza ignited outrage over psychiatry's subversion of education, resulting in 42 senators signing a decree stating that a teacher's job is to educate students. In effect, they said, rather than outsourcing classroom problems to psychiatrists for drugging, it was the teacher's responsibility to address their students' learning issues.
And when they're saying learning issues, I don't know what they mean. Do they mean like a learning disorder or learning disability? Or do they mean the thing that the teacher is supposed to be good at, when one of the students just isn't getting it, the teacher might be good at finding other ways to explain it or getting other students involved in helping the student understand the thing. So when they say learning issue, it just that doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks to Vincenza's actions, Italy's Supreme Court ruled that mental health treatment of minors without parental consent, including psychiatric screening in schools, is a violation of personal rights. Working together, Vincenza and CCHR, backed by the support of the IAS, are safeguarding the future of a nation. And here's some pictures. I would think that this is her. I'm not sure.
Vincenza.
Yeah.
She looks like a Vincenza.
She does look like a Vincenza.
There's that quote.
To teach a child that his school problems are solved with a pill is disastrous. That quote also just sounds like an Elron quote.
Got to use that word disastrous. So that's the end of the main article. There's one more one-pager in here with a member profile.
Oh, meet a Scientologist.
Yeah, meet a Scientologist in paper form.
Ba-ba-da. So this person's name is Vivian Velasco Garcia, who is a fashion designer and lifetime member of the IAS. Poor thing. From Mexico City, graduated from a 3-year degree program earlier this year, which would have been, I think, 2 years ago when I got this, and is now doing further postgraduate training. Before discovering Scientology, she had major problems with communication, which was ruining her life. Introverted, embarrassed, and very nervous near people, hard same. She could never say or get across what she wanted, also hard same. That all changed when her brother-in-law introduced her to Scientology.
Maybe induced her is the more appropriate.
Yeah.
This is I've induced Scientology on yet another relative. I will assimilate the entire family.
So she's got this really shitty brother-in-law who introduced her to Scientology, and she enrolled in the Success Through Communication course at the Ideal Org in Mexico City. She graduated with miraculous wins. Miraculous.
Miraculous
wins. Hashtag winning.
They couldn't just say she completed the course.
I feel like that should be Scientology's new slogan, just hashtag miraculous wins.
Don't give them any ideas.
Yeah. The streams are starting to collide. They're going to really start taking notice of us now. It's not going to be good.
It should be hashtag never not miraculous wins.
Never not isn't miraculous wins.
So she had these miraculous wins at her communication course. And she says, I finished that course as a completely new person, reborn and brainwashed. I was suddenly able to communicate with anyone and was no longer embarrassed because I was brainwashed. Every course brought me new vistas, but the first course was like the beginning of an avalanche.
Yes, accurate.
Everything changed after that. Aware that Scientology had other powerful tools that could help her with her relationships with people and life, she has been on services in the org ever since and is currently progressing up both sides of the bridge, auditing, and training. And she's losing so much money, and she's going to have so much debt when she's done. Good luck. Okay. Vivian was first introduced to the IAS and the humanitarian campaigns. Campaigns it supports when she attended a showing of an IAS anniversary event in the Mexico Ideal Org. Of these campaigns, the one that speaks to her most is human rights. It's something that is all over the world and affects so many lives, she says. Her brother-in-law is also an active volunteer with Youth for Human Rights and frequently tells her stories of his activities. To support the purpose of the IAS and all it makes possible, Vivian recently became a lifetime member of the IAS. I wanted to help and to be part of the group, to be part of the effective team that is protecting Scientology and making it possible to help other people find Scientology. And of course, to support the Fourth Dynamic campaigns and everything the IAS does to forward them. Yeah, that's all meaningless to me.
There's a whole Scientology thing on TV that explains all the 8 dynamics. I think that one it's a famous one with create, counter, create.
Create, counter, create. All the triangles.
Yeah, that's a very weird one.
That's the arc one.
Yeah, it's a pretty good episode, I got to tell you. We haven't seen it in a while, but there is a YouTube on our YouTube channel is me doing the create, and I think it's just named create Scientology stream or something on our YouTube channel. I was like celebrating. I was like all alone. The Media Wench wasn't here, and that video came on, and I like celebrated by myself in the chair because I was like, it's this one. Oh shit. But yeah, that's the video about the dynamics. I forget what all the dynamics were, but it's like, it starts as, just yourself, and then it goes all the way out to the universe, and there's 8 of them. So if you can think of like concentric circles, that's what the dynamics are. So the 4th one is probably like the Earth dynamic. You
just got to keep going up the bridge till you're farting stars. Yeah. So with all this stuff with like the Fourth Dynamic campaigns, IAS, Ideal Org, all this stuff, it's like, I've said this before, but it's just kind of like gamifying Scientology. There's like all these code names, and it just makes it feel like, oh, if you know what we're talking about, you're in the in crowd.
Gamifying is kind of a good way to talk about it, because other religions don't do that, right? They don't have the bridge where you have to get to the next level and shit. It is like a lot like the way a video game works.
Collect 2 coins.
Oh, but then there's also like ways in which then you're making the members compete, right? Because you don't want to be below another member on like where you're at along, it's going to make the people race too. Yeah.
Right. And then when you leave, it just becomes an episode of Black Mirror where they can do whatever they want to mess your life up. So we're at the end, but there's this really great ad I wanted you to see. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to show you.
Toxins that dull your thinking and dim your awareness.
And destroy your life.
The solution is in this book. Read Clear Body, Clear Mind by L. Ron Hubbard and find out about the purification program.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Don't find out about the purification program.
Yeah. And their definition of toxins is like all inclusive of like everything besides oxygen. They're right up there with the chemtrails people.
It's more compatible with like the anti-vaccine people and like sort of the medical deniers people.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
If they had a little more resources, I think they'd be recruiting pretty heavily in those communities.
Yep. So it says hundreds of thousands have experienced new confidence and clear thinking as a result of the purification program. I wonder how many of those people actually survived and didn't have long-term medical effects. So that's it. And then there's a couple ads to join the IAS. There you go. Thank you for enjoying this literature with me. Right. Well, that was another edition of me reading a Scientology magazine and us being disgusted and amused by it. This is this is the first time that Echoplex Media and I have worked together actually on video. I did an interview with Dave a while back. I will link that in the description if you want to check that out. Definitely go subscribe to their channel. I will also link to that. Subscribe to my channel if you have not already. And share this with your friends. Keep asking questions, and I will see you next time.
Thanks for having us on your channel. It was super, super fun. Later,
have
ladies.
A good night,
Bye.
Bye.
Two ladies and a gay talk about wipes. Next on the Skeptic She YouTube channel.